bonjour à tous, bonsoir à tous. J'espère que vous allez bien. Moi, c'est Marc. Je m'appelle Marc. I am Mark, and I'm the founder of Coffee Break Languages, and I'm delighted to be here today. Tonight, it's 8 o'clock in the evening here in the UK. I would imagine it's in the middle of the afternoon if you're watching in the East Coast US. If you're in the West Coast, then it's early in the afternoon. And if you're in Australia or New Zealand or in Far East Asia, then it's the middle of the night. And I hope that you get back to sleep soon. I am delighted to be here. We're going to be talking about a particular aspect of French grammar today. And that is the idea behind this session. It's basically a session that will allow you to get a little idea of one aspect of French grammar. That's a particular type of pronoun, indirect object pronouns. But it's also content that's taken from our special Masterclass. And the Masterclass is a 6-month course which runs from the 1st of March, yes, in 2 days' time, all the way through to August. Now, the 6 months have 6 modules, and each module covers a different topic, and I'll be telling you a little more about that later. First of all, let me make sure that our slides are working. Yeah, that is not the right slide. Hang on a little second, because it's not talking about June. Hang on, I think we've got a little problem here. Let me fix this. I'll be 1 second. I'll just bring this back here. Actually, no, I need to have that on here to fix. So give me a little second to fix this because that's not quite right. And we need this to be right in order for everything to make sense. Here we go. I should have this here and that. Should now make sense. Yay, that's correct. What is a pronoun? That's what we're looking at today. What is a pronoun? I see that we've got many people watching live. Please do let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And of course, most importantly, it is very good to have some questions. So if you've got any questions about any aspect of the grammar that we talk about, then post a question in the chat. And also, if you have any questions about aspects of the masterclass, then I'd be more than happy to answer these in the chat. Okay, I think, let me just double check. Yeah, I think everything seems to be working as expected. So let's get started and talk about what is a pronoun. Now, pronouns, the clue is in the name. Pronouns are nouns or words that stand for a noun, if you like. So the pro element means it stands for a noun. So it could be a person, a thing, or something that we want to replace. It helps us speak more fluently when we can use pronouns. If we look at some English examples, it will help to explain a little bit what a pronoun is. You get different types of pronouns. You get subject pronouns, direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, reflexive pronouns, possessive pronouns, disjunctive pronouns, and many more. But in this particular session that we're going to be looking at tonight, we're looking at indirect object pronouns, and I'm going to explain more about that. We're actually going to start from English and then move into French, because I always think it helps us to kind of contextualize what we're thinking about when we focus on English, if that is our native language. Let's take a look at this sentence. Laura reads the letter to David. So there are 3 things here. We've got Laura, we've got the letter, and we've got David. And each one of those things, the person or the letter, the thing, are part of this sentence. And we've also got verbs in here. We've got one verb, reads. But today we're focusing on the pronouns or the nouns. Laura could be replaced by she. So the pronoun she could replace the word Laura in this sentence. Let's say we've already been talking about Laura. Laura received the letter. She opened it. She reads the letter to David. So there we're saying that she is replacing Laura if we've already mentioned Laura. So she reads the letter to David could be an alternative version of this sentence where we've replaced Laura, the noun, with the pronoun she. Let's come back to Laura reads the letter to David because we've also got the letter, another noun in this sentence. And the letter can be replaced by a different pronoun. In English, that pronoun would be it. So Laura reads it to David. We know that it's the letter that she's reading to David because we've perhaps previously mentioned that letter. Laura received the letter and she reads it to David. Okay, so far so good. Both of these are pronouns, so we've got she and it. But to David is another element of this sentence, and to David is possible to be replaced with to him. So David in this case would be replaced with him. And the to is important because it reflects what happens in the French. And we'll come back to that, obviously. So Laura reads the letter to him. We could replace to David with to him. And in fact, we can replace all three of those words, Laura, the letter, and David, with different pronouns. She, that would be a subject pronoun, reads it, direct object pronoun, to him, indirect object pronoun. So to him there, indirect object pronoun, because there's a direction involved, it's going to him, the preposition to is what makes it indirect. It is replacing the letter, and she is replacing Laura. So hopefully that all makes sense. I am going to be asking you to contribute a little to this session, and I'd like to ask you if that makes sense so far. So if you're a little confused, then put 1 in the comments. If you're okay, if some bits of this make sense, then put 2 in the comments. And if everything is good so far, then put 3 in the comments. And that lets me know if everything is making sense. So we've got Laura reads the letter to David. We've got 3 different concepts there, Laura, the letter, and David. And we're replacing each of them with different types of pronouns. Subject pronoun for she, direct object pronoun with it, and to him with an indirect object pronoun. So good to see some 3s coming in here. That's always good to know that things are making sense. Okay, let's now think about how this would happen in French. We've got Laura lit la lettre à David. So it means exactly the same thing. Laura reads the letter to David. Laura lit la lettre à David. Let's repeat this all together. Laura lit la lettre à David. Super. Okay. But what we want to do now is replace some of these words. And we're going to focus on à David. Because à David, if we take this out, we've got Laura lit la lettre, but we still want to say to him. And to do that in French, we need the word lui. And this is one of these indirect object pronouns, lui. But the tricky thing about this, it's not really a tricky thing, it's the interesting thing about this, is that lui is going to change position. It's not going to go in the same place as we would put it in English. Laura reads the letter to him. In fact, we're going to put lui before lit, before our verb. So that becomes Laura lui lit la lettre. Quite a tongue twister there. Let's try it. Laura lui lit la lettre. Now, lui, I think it's tricky because there are lots of little words in French. And some of them are quite similar. So lui means to him or indeed to her. Here's an example. J'ai raconté une histoire à Louise. So j'ai raconté, I told, une histoire, a story, à Louise, to Louise. So if we're going to replace à Louise, that's going to come out, and we're going to replace it with to her. Now we saw to him was lui, to her is lui. So it's the same word in French for to him and to her and to it. And again, this is going to come before our verb. And in this case, it's coming before our conjugated verb. J'ai raconté une histoire à Louise. The conjugated verb is our auxiliary, so it's going in there before j'ai. So je lui ai raconté une histoire. I, to her, have told a story. Je lui ai raconté une histoire. Très bien. So that's lui replacing to her or to him. In this case, à Louise and also à David. Je lui ai raconté une histoire. Okay, it's your turn. Je donne le livre à Jean-Luc. I give the book to Jean-Luc. I would like you to change that into I give him the book, or I give the book to him. And think carefully about where that to him goes. I'm going to give you 10 seconds or thereabouts, and I'd like you to post your answer in the chat. So let's have a look at your answer to this. How do you say, I give the book to him? Okay, we've got some correct answers here. Let's look at Sandra's answer. Je lui donne le livre. Très bien. Ellie also saying, je lui donne le livre. Yeah, lots of correct answers. Eleni is saying, je lui donne le livre. That's exactly how you would say it in spoken French, in a sense. Je lui donne le livre. But in written French, we would write out je lui donne le livre, just as Tam has done there. Brilliant. Well done to everybody who got that correct. Okay, moving on. Je lui donne le livre, the answer. Let's take a different example because we've got here j'ai dit la vérité à mes parents. J'ai dit la vérité à mes parents. So, I told the truth to my parents. J'ai dit la vérité à mes parents. This time we want to replace not to him or to her, but to them, à mes parents. And this is where we need a different word. And that word is leur. Leur. L-E-U-R. And what we're going to do with leur is again place it before our verb, in this case the full conjugated verb with our auxiliary first, and that will become je leur ai dit la vérité. I, to them, have told the truth. Je leur ai dit la vérité. Très bien. Okay? So far, so good. Let me know again. 1, if you're confused. 2, if some of this is making sense. And 3, if all is good so far. Hopefully, again, it's all making sense. Okay, I'm just going to check some technical stuff here. I think we're all good. And it is also good to see some 3s coming in. Excellent. Everything seems to be working as required. Now, if you're struggling a little with this, if you're not so sure about it, then do know that if you head to coffeebreaklanguages.com/French, you'll be able to find our beginners course, our level 1 course, and our level 2 course. Pronouns would come in at the end of level 2 into level 3, and indeed in our Masterclass course, which I'm going to be telling you about a little later on. We're going to now do a listening activity, and this listening activity is taken straight from our Masterclass, so it gives you an opportunity to practice what you've learned in this lesson and indeed in our Masterclass lessons. Now, we're going to listen first of all to a conversation, and this is a conversation, well, in fact, I'm going to let you listen to the audio, which will explain the context of the conversation. But first of all, the important thing is to be aware of the fact that first time through, you're going to listen with no transcript on the screen. So really try to focus as much as you can with the language that you're hearing, and also see if you can listen out for those lui and leur words, the indirect object pronouns that you're hearing in the text. So again, this is taken from the course that we are promoting at the moment. It starts on Friday, our Coffee Break French Masterclass. So let's take a look and a listen to this conversation. Here goes. Alors, Géraldine, tu peux nous expliquer notre premier dialogue?
Oui, alors, dans ce premier dialogue, nous avons Norbert et Swazig.
Norbert et Swazig?
Swazig,
Swazig?
qui est un prénom breton.
Ah, un très joli prénom.
Mhm.
Swazig. Ok.
Et Swazig a envie de voyager autour du monde et elle en parle avec Norbert.
Très bien. Alors, nous allons commencer notre première lecture maintenant. Alors, tu as parlé à tes parents de ton projet de voyage autour du monde l'année prochaine?
Oui, je leur ai parlé de mon projet, mais mon père pense que ce n'est pas une bonne idée.
Attends, tu lui as dit que c'était une opportunité unique et une chance extraordinaire.
Oui, je lui ai dit tout ça, mais ils trouvent tous les deux que c'est trop dangereux. De plus, je leur avais promis de finir mes études avant de partir voyager.
Mais ce n'est pas dangereux du tout. Puis tu vas leur écrire souvent. Tu leur enverras des cartes postales de tous les pays du monde. Ce sera génial.
Tu ne veux pas venir à la maison leur dire tout ça ?
Okay, sorry about that. I think possibly the volume was a little bit low. I did turn it up halfway through. We're going to hear it again anyway. And this time you're going to hear it with the text. So, as we explained at the beginning, it's a dialogue between Norbert and Soisig, and they're talking about a project or a plan to travel around the world. And again, we're listening out for the indirect object pronouns lui and leur. Obviously, the volume of all the content on the masterclass is normal volume. I just had not pressed the correct button here because we had turned down the sound effects from earlier. Okay, you will again understand that this is a normal speed conversation there. So that one that we've just listened to was the normal speed version. With all of the conversations, with all the dialogues in the masterclass, you also get a slowed down version, and that's what we're going to listen to now. And I'll put the text on the screen. So we'll put the text on the screen here, and let's listen again to the conversation.
Alors, tu as parlé à tes parents de ton projet de voyage autour du monde l'année prochaine?
Oui, je leur ai parlé de mon projet, mais mon père pense que ce n'est pas une bonne idée.
Attends, tu lui as dit que c'était une opportunité unique et une chance extraordinaire?
Oui, je lui ai dit tout ça. Mais ils trouvent tous les deux que c'est trop dangereux. De plus, je leur avais promis de finir mes études avant de partir voyager.
Mais ce n'est pas dangereux du tout. Puis tu vas leur écrire souvent. Tu leur enverras des cartes postales de tous les pays du monde. Ce sera génial.
Tu ne veux pas venir à la maison leur dire tout ça?
Okay, so hopefully that was a little more understandable. We slowed things down. You were listening to the conversation at a slower speed. Let's go through it together, and I'll bring it back on the screen. And this time I'm going to highlight all of our indirect object pronouns. There we go. So Norbert begins by saying, alors, tu as parlé à tes parents de ton projet de voyage autour du monde l'année prochaine. So have you spoken to your parents about your plan to travel around the world next year? Soisig responds, oui, je leur ai parlé de mon projet. So I have spoken to them about my plan. Now, je leur ai parlé de mon projet. Soisig could have said, oui, j'ai parlé à mes parents, but we've mentioned the parents already. We don't need to repeat them. That's why we can say to them rather than to my parents. Je leur ai parlé. Je leur ai parlé de mon projet. I've spoken to them about my plan. Mais mon père pense que ce n'est pas une bonne idée. But my father thinks that it's not a good idea. Mon père pense que ce n'est pas une bonne idée. Norbert says, attends, tu lui as dit que c'était une opportunité unique et une chance extraordinaire. Hang on, wait a minute. Tu lui as dit, did you tell him, this time we're talking about to him, to Soisig's father, que c'était une opportunité unique, that it was a unique opportunity, et une chance extraordinaire, and an extraordinary opportunity, chance, an extraordinary chance. Soisig says, oui, je lui ai dit tout ça. Yes, I told him all of that. And again, she could say, oui, j'ai dit tout ça à mon père. She could repeat à mon père each time. But the fact is, we've got lui because we don't need to repeat the father each time. Mais ils trouvent tous les deux que c'est trop dangereux. But they find, both of them, that it's too dangerous. De plus, je leur avais promis de finir mes études avant de partir voyager. What's more, I had promised them de finir mes études, that I would finish my studies avant de partir voyager, before going off to travel. Norbert says, mais ce n'est pas dangereux du tout, but it's not dangerous at all. Puis tu vas leur écrire souvent, but you're going to write to them often. And again, he could have said, tu vas écrire à tes parents souvent. But because this is fluent French and they're using French the way it would be used in normal circumstances, They are not repeating tu vas écrire souvent à tes parents, tu enverras des cartes postales à tes parents. Instead, they're using leur, to them. Puis tu vas leur écrire souvent, tu leur enverras des cartes postales. You will send to them postcards de tous les pays du monde, from all of the corners of the world, all countries of the world. Ce sera génial. It will be great. And Swazig answers, tu ne veux pas venir à la maison leur dire tout ça? Don't you want to come to the house and tell them all of that? Tu ne veux pas venir à la maison leur dire tout ça? Très bien. Now, as we've gone through this, we've seen different types of language. We've seen, of course, the indirect object pronouns, lui and leur. But we've also seen some other challenging aspects of French, different tenses. We've got some perfect tenses, and we've got some future tenses. On verra. What was the other one? Ce sera génial, and so on. So we've seen different tenses. And the thing about this is that it all comes together. We're seeing information from different areas of grammar, from different areas of the language, and they're all coming together in this one dialogue. And as you heard there, the dialogue was slowed down a little, and we saw it at at an easier speed to understand. So let's just recap on where we are with our indirect object pronouns. The purpose of them is to replace nouns in order to avoid repetition, so that we don't always need to say à tes parents, à mon père, and so on. J'explique la situation à Clara. So we don't need to repeat à Clara if we've already been talking about Clara. We can simply say je lui explique la situation. I explain the situation to her. Lui means to him, to her, to it, is a singular third person indirect object pronoun. And leur means to them, and it doesn't matter about the gender. So leur, to them. Now, leur never changes when it's used as an indirect object pronoun. You may have seen a word, L-E-U-R-S. Yes, there is a word in French, L-E-U-R-S, but in this case, leur does not change when it's used as an indirect object pronoun. We'll talk about leur, L-E-U-R-S, another time. Note that in French, you often need to add a to. For example, in English, we can say, I send him a letter. In actual fact, the concept there is I send to him a letter. I send a letter to him. But we can miss out the to if we put the him straight after the verb. But in French, we have to say to him. And we have to change the word order. I, to him, send a letter. Je lui envoie une lettre. And some verbs require an indirect object. So things like envoyer, to send, dire, to say, expliquer, to explain, donner, to give, offrir, to give as a present or to offer. All of these require an indirect object. So I offered him or I gave him a present. Je lui ai offert un cadeau. In English, we don't have the to him idea, but it's there in the concept. It's there, therefore, in French. Okay, we've talked a lot about indirect object pronouns. We have listened to a conversation. We have gone through the conversation and looked at the different examples of lui and leur. I really hope that this has made sense, and I would love to know whether it has. So again, 1, if you're a little bit confused, 2, if some bits are making sense, and 3, if all is good so far. Hopefully, we've got some 3s in here, and I can see that yes, we do indeed have some 3s. That's great to know. Again, if this is too much for you, then head to coffeebreaklanguage.com/French, where you'll find our beginners courses. But we're focusing on an intermediate level today. And talking of that intermediate level, we're going to take it a little further and talk about the Coffee Break French Masterclass, because as I said, this is our course that begins on Friday the 1st of March, and runs for 6 months from then onwards. And the whole idea about the Masterclass is that this is coffee break learning, the same learning that you're familiar with from our live sessions, from our podcasts, from our videos, but it's done in a slightly different way, very structured, progressive, and with a huge amount of support from the Coffee Break team. It's monthly modules. We will be taking part in short, regular sessions, video content, audio content, text content. It's not live lessons like this. It is pre-recorded listening video, sort of listening. I'm tired, sorry. Audio, video, and text content that you can work through at your own pace and complete the sessions. It's structured learning, so of course you'll be working through the content, and as you see something appears in lesson 1, then it will appear in lesson 2, and it will go on. Back, here we are. It will go on like that all the way through the masterclass as it builds and is structured in a progressive way. There's audio content, text content, and video review. And of course, this is, as I said, coffee break learning. That means coffee break length. So if you have got 15 minutes a day, then you will be able to do the masterclass and sit down with a cup of coffee or tea or whatever you prefer and enjoy a lesson. It's coffee break style, very friendly, very easy to understand. It's like what we've been doing tonight. This is not a turn to page 23 and let's look at this dialogue and learn the vocabulary. It's chatty, it's friendly, it's informal, and that's what we've been doing for almost 18 years. In fact, more than 18 years. But we enjoy delivering lessons in that way, and that is exactly what the masterclass involves. And of course, it's coffee break quality. Every piece of content features native speakers. You're hearing different French accents. You'll be building your understanding with excellent quality video, audio, and text materials. Let's take a look at the curriculum for the masterclass. It's, as I said, 6 months, and each month there is a different topic. In month 1, starting on the 1st of March, it's tricky verbs. We're looking at tricky verbs where you will be looking at some verbs that you might well know, but they perhaps have different meanings when they're used in different situations. The first lesson here is about savoir and connaître, to know. Both mean to know, but they mean to know in different circumstances. For example, would you know whether it is savoir or connaître when you know the words to a song? Interesting. So lots of tricky verbs that we cover in Module 1 in March. In April, we're looking at pronouns. And of course, this is where this content is taken from, our indirect object pronouns. But we'll also follow up with other pronouns, direct object pronouns, disjunctive pronouns, possessive pronouns, and so on. In May, we're going to be looking at false friends. This is more a kind of vocabulary module where we're focusing on building your vocabulary, helping you, of course, practice your tricky verbs and your pronouns because they'll come up in the dialogues that we cover in false friends module. But false friends are those words where you're not quite sure what they mean. They look like an English word, but they actually mean something completely different. So it's a great way to build your vocabulary and perhaps take a slight breather from the more grammatical content in modules 1 and 2. Coming on to June, we're going back to grammar and focusing on tense mastery. So earlier we saw different tenses, we saw some futures, we saw other tenses in the examples of, the perfect tense, we saw some imperfects and so on. But we'll be looking at a huge amount of tenses in Module 4. And then, so that's Module 4 in June. In July, we'll be tackling the subjunctive. So the subjunctive is something that learners find a little bit challenging. There's no need to worry about the subjunctive, and we'll help you master the subjunctive in Module 5 in July. And then in August, we'll be doing, I think, what everyone is the favourite module, I think, for the masterclass. It's Sound More French, helping you use particular areas of basically the words that you're learning. You're going to be learning to sound more French using particular types of expressions and particular sentence structures and little words that French native speakers use all the time, and sometimes it's a bit difficult to know when to use those. I see that we've got some questions coming in. I'm going to answer all your questions. I'm just going to run through the rest of these slides quickly, and then I will get to your questions. First of all, let's look at the schedule. Now, the schedule, as I said, it's over 6 months, and each month there are 5 lessons. So you can see here, March 2024, we're starting on Friday the 1st of March with lesson 1. Lesson 2 comes on Monday the 4th, lesson 3 on Wednesday the 6th. And then we take a little break with an activity, and the red logo there, the red icon there, it represents the activity. And then on the Wednesday, the 13th, this is very small on my screen, I'm struggling a bit to see the numbers. Wednesday the 13th, it's lesson 4. Monday the 18th, lesson 5. And then the rest of the month is dedicated to basically recap, consolidation, everything, to make sure that you've, first of all, completed all of the content. If you've not really had time to do all of the lessons at that point, then you'll be able to catch up. But we also offer a video checklist, a video review, a checklist, and a test. And then we'll also do a live session to go through the test and make sure everyone's understood everything. So, as you can see, this is when these lessons are released. It's not live sessions. They're just released on those dates. You can take the lessons on that date, or if you can't do it on the Friday the 1st, then you can do it over the weekend on Saturday or Sunday. So that is the schedule. Now, before we move on, I'm actually going to answer some of your questions. Nat is asking, is this masterclass meant to follow the one that began in October and is still running? No, this is the same content as the October masterclass. We've been running the masterclass for, I think, almost 8 years now. And thousands of learners have gone through the masterclass, improving their French over the course of the 6 months. But it's the same content. It's a little bit updated this time, but it's the same content, and we'll be working through that again with a new cohort of learners from March through to August. Madeline is saying, can you do it in more than 6 months? So what I would say is that if we followed the schedule of the masterclass, then the ideal scenario would be that you work through module 1 in March, and you do the activities and the lessons in March. And there's also an important aspect of this that I've not even mentioned, and that's the homework. Because for every lesson, there's a little homework activity, and you contribute your homework activity on the Masterclass website, on the Coffee Break Academy. And our tutors, the Coffee Break tutors, will give you a response, will answer your homework and correct it, provide some support for you if you've gone wrong, explain where you went wrong, and of course, if you've gone right, give you some encouragement and so on. But crucially, you'll also see all of that support for everyone else, so you can learn from the mistakes and the where other learners in the masterclass went wrong. And it's a very supportive community. Everyone learns from everyone else. So, coming back to Madeline's question, can you do it in more than 6 months? Ideally, you would take those 5 lessons over the course of that month so that you can do your homework and have the masterclass tutors mark your homework at that time. However, if you don't complete it in that month, you have access to this content for life. So you're able to work through that at your own pace. All I would say is that the masterclass tutors will be providing feedback for module 1 during module 1, and then module 2 during module 2. And the feedback and questions and so on that you are getting as part of the masterclass, that will finish at the end of August. So that doesn't go on for life, but you will have access to all the materials, and you can download them and store them on your own computer and so on without a problem. So I hope that answers your question, Madeline. Dave saying, merci Mark, I have not advanced far enough to take on the masterclass as I'm still working my way through season 3, but I have no doubt it will be useful down the road. Absolutely. Dave, one thing I would say is that season 3 is quite different from the masterclass, but they're at the same level. So season 3 will, obviously you're following a story there, you're getting exposed to different things, but those things are coming up. So let's say you look at the future tense, that's coming up because that's part of the story. And then the next lesson, you might be looking at a pronoun or something like that. And that's coming up because it's part of the story. So it's perfectly feasible to do season 3 or level 3 alongside the masterclass, which is very much a progressive, structured course where things come up because we're talking about pronouns or we're talking about the subjunctive and so on. So level 3, we always say that the masterclass is a little between level 3 and level 4. If you've done level 4, then it's probably not quite the right level for you. But if you're doing level 3 or just started level 4, the masterclass is perfect for you. Lois is saying, how do you know if you're ready? I'm in session 2, but understood everything today. Lois, it sounds like you're ready. What I would say, let me just see if I can do this. Which button do I press here? I've got a lot of buttons in front of me. I think if I press this button, yes. If you go to coffeebreaklanguages.com/masterclass, you'll come to this page on Coffee Break Academy. And if you click on Masterclass Class of March 2024 here, you'll be taken to our special page for the Masterclass. You can see that it's starting in 1 day and 3 hours. But if you stay on this page for any longer than about 10 seconds, what should happen is you will see a little pop-up and you're asked here, do you want to sample the Masterclass experience? And in the Masterclass experience sample, you'll gain some further insight into what the Masterclass is all about. We've put some sample activities, some further details there, answered some questions, and that will be hopefully helpful to you, Lois, and indeed to many of you who are watching this. And I would, of course, say that all of the information on this page is very useful. Now, I've come to this point of the page, and that actually brings me to my next slide. But before I get there, excuse me 1 second, I'm just going to take a glass of water because I'm getting a little hoarse. Okay, so I'm moving on to our next slide. I'm going to skip that one because there we go. So we'll come back to target audience in a moment. Pricing. So the Masterclass, the full price for the Masterclass, to get access to the 5 lessons per month, the bonus activities, the module test, the email check-ins, guaranteed feedback in all of our activities, and of course any questions that you have, the Masterclass tutors will answer them, and a course certificate. The full price for this is $599. However, we are offering a special discount, and that gives the full course for $449. And to take advantage of that discount, all you need to do is go to that page. So again, if I come back here, you'll see that when you click on that button, that code, the special price there is already applied. So just click on that button, sign me up, and you'll see, I think I can zoom in here. Yep, so there's the full price. Your intro offer at $150 off leaves $449. So that is how you take advantage of the course. So it is, as I say, $449. This is only available in dollars. We have to choose one currency, and we have learners all over the world, and the US dollar is the most common currency that everyone is used to using. So we're the current price. Let me just do a little calculation here. I think I can do this. The current price in pounds is £354.62 or thereabouts. So that's kind of what you're looking at. But this is one payment for the 6 months, and you get everything in there. And you also get some live sessions where we're doing a live lesson at the end of each module to recap what's been covered in the module. Now, I talked a little about the target audience based on some of your questions. And this is where we see the Masterclass. So if you're thinking of the B1, B2 level in the Common European Framework of Reference, then this is an intermediate level. And Masterclass is kind of in the middle there. So for B1 learners moving on to B2, it's absolutely perfect. It will really help you solidify so much of what you've learned so far and take things on. And in terms of our courses, I've already said this, if you are working on, sorry, press the wrong button again. If you're working on Coffee Break French level 3, then it is ideal for that level. If you're moving into level 4, then again, it's ideal for that level. If you're already if you're already up and running with level 4, then and finding that really straightforward, then probably the Masterclass is not quite the right level for you. Likewise, if you're working on level 2, then it's possible that you might find the Masterclass a little bit challenging. It depends on how confident you are with the materials in level 2. Really, at this level, we always try to beat through or move through that intermediate plateau, because people do get to a certain point and it's difficult to move on from there. And that's why we built the Masterclass around all of this. Rebecca, will you offer this again in the fall? I'm retiring in September. First of all, congratulations. Congratulations on your forthcoming retirement. We're not quite sure yet when the next session of the masterclass will be. We've currently got a class that's started last October, I think, and that's finishing off in March. There may be a class in the fall and the autumn. If not, there will be a class next year. But I guess you're probably going to be very busy over the next few months. It may not be the right time for you right now, but we possibly will offer another masterclass later in the year. And this hopefully answers Anya's question as well. Are there masterclasses planned also during the winter? Zoe's asking, what time of day is the live session at the end of March? That will depend. When we start the masterclass, we do a survey to find out where everyone is, and we try to choose a time that works best for as many of the learners as possible. But we also vary that time over the different months. And of course, the masterclass live session will be available to watch on replay afterwards. So hopefully that answers your question, Zoe. Linda, is masterclass considered intermediate level? We've just talked about that, so yes, definitely. Laura, is it the right level for an early B2 advanced B1 learner? I think, Laura, I've already answered your question. Is absolutely spot on for that learner, for that level. Alan, will the class be repeated later in the year or next year? Yes, we're not quite sure exactly when yet, but it will be repeated. Lily is saying, I've already gone through the masterclass a few years ago. Thank you, Lily. We hope you've enjoyed it. I'm hoping I can still access my class on the portal. Yes, so if you log into the Coffee Break Academy, you'll still have access to the masterclass there. What I would say is that you'll have access to your cohort of the masterclass. This one's a separate one, so you wouldn't have access to ongoing feedback. Linda, is it appropriate to take this masterclass if we haven't done the previous one? Absolutely, because this is the same as the previous one. So this is very much the same content, the same modules and so on that we're covering in this masterclass. And Dave saying, that's a good explanation of how it could be beneficial to do alongside season 3. Dave, obviously, it depends on how much time you've got. We want, if it's right for you, then please do it. If it's not right for you, it will be available another time. Madeline is asking, is there a masterclass above this? There's not a masterclass above this, but we do have lots of content above this level. So if you've not yet done Coffee Break French Level 4, which is our story that follows 4 characters who live in and around Paris and how they interact, then do check out Coffee Break French Level 4. Again, just head to coffeebreaklanguages.com/French. And we also have an advanced course called La Vérité éclate toujours, and that's really at high B2 into C1 level, where you're kind of reading a novel and working through a novel with the support of the Coffee Break content that we provided. And again, you can find that at the address that I mentioned there. Sparkling Faye, what a lovely username. Thanks for the description, Mark. It's definitely interesting for me. Yeah, a bit later. No problem at all. As I say, if the masterclass is right for you now, fantastic. If it's not, we'll still be around. We're not going anywhere. And the masterclass will be back in the future. But in the meantime, check out all of our other content at a slightly lower level. I hope that you have enjoyed this. I hope that it's been useful. And most of all, this is the bottom line. I hope that you've learned something tonight about indirect object pronouns. And if you're already familiar with indirect object pronouns, then I hope that a little bit of refreshing helped and our coffee break method of looking at this helped. Thank you for your ongoing enthusiasm for all that we do. And also thanks to all of the team behind the scenes helping me put this live together. I will be back soon with more content. We'll all be back soon with more content. And indeed, we've got a new series of the Coffee Break Show coming quite soon. So look out for that. But for now, I will wish you bonne journée if you've still got the rest of your day ahead. Bonne soirée if you've got the rest of your evening ahead. And if, like me, you're going to bed soon, bonne nuit. Merci beaucoup et à la prochaine. Au revoir.